Hello, my name is Madeline, and today I'll be sharing with you the magic of bioremediation in relation to the overarching theme of sustainability. First, let's dive down into a few quick definitions before we begin to tackle this important discussion. Bioremediation, when broken down, can be described as a process that occurs when microorganisms that are found in nature break down, consume, and therefore grow off of pollutants that are normally very harmful and toxic to many macroorganisms, which are us, and any other creature that are able to be seen in detail by the human eye. To the right, I've included a nice little diagram that I feel helps us to visualize this on a larger scale. In essence, this process has three key players. 1. The environment, or some sort of natural setting, where 2. Pollution takes place in the form of an introduced and poisonous contaminant that benefits 3. An organism that has the ability to break down the chemicals within the pollutant to use as energy for its own survival. The three most common types of these bioremediating organisms are plants, fungi, and bacteria. Since plants are the most easily observed in these types of processes to the human eye, I've chosen to focus on examples that include microorganisms such as fungi and bacteria. But what exactly are microorganisms, you might ask? They are microscopic life forms, also commonly referred to as microbes, which are able to multiply very quickly and are ubiquitous in nature, which means that they are essentially found everywhere on the planet, from extreme conditions like deep sea vents to those that are a little less extreme, such as soil or pond water. Microbes can also be found inside the human body, like those pictured above, which were sampled and cultivated from a human mouth. Most of all, microorganisms prove to be beneficial and rather harmless towards their environment. But as we've seen in recent days, there are those that can also prove to be very infectious or pathogenic, that lead to diseases with dangerous consequences. All in all, whenever studying microbes, it is important to note that they all play an important role in their complex relationships with other microorganisms, plants, and animals in their environment. With more study on these relationships, scientists have also found that microorganisms can adapt to form relationships with pollutants found within their environments, hence leading to an opportunity for the process of bioremediation to occur. However, it is important to be aware of the large-scale pollution that is accumulating all over the globe. Here's a list of the top 10 most common or frequent types of pollution caused by humans. It is important to identify that this list only provides a very small notion of the much larger problem of pollution at hand. Here is a slide that provides some visual interpretation for our top 10 list. We, or at least I, tend to think of pollution as something like oil spills or landfills that are far away, out of sight, and out of mind. And in this discussion, the two cases that I do bring up definitely target these big or stereotypical examples. But by this, I do not intend to discredit the significant impact of smaller scale acts of pollution found at home and within other communities. Wherever there is life, I feel that there will always be some form of pollution, but it is our man-made, industrial pollution that I feel causes the most harm to the Earth's natural environment. It is only recently in our history that we've begun to use bioremediation as a force to fight off pollution. Before the industrial era, the Earth has been naturally renewing itself with its own forms of this process. Some examples can be found in the natural composting that occurs within the soil of fields and forests, where leaf litter and other organic materials are broken down by decomposers, or even in the cycling of organic elements, such as nitrogen or carbon, nitrogen being processed through bacteria in the soil, and carbon being filtered through plants. Without these natural forms of bioremediation, the Earth would have never been able to sustain itself to where we are today. And it is exactly these good benefits that scientists are looking to gain by implementing microorganisms in areas of pollution that they can degrade. In this discussion, I'll be focusing on two cases of human-implemented bioremediation. One in the form of cleaning up the toxic damage of oil spills from marine environments, and two in the absorption of harmful radioactive waves from nuclear reactors. Case Study 1 centers around pollution from oil spills within aquatic areas. In 2010, a BP Deepwater Horizon platform exploded in the Gulf of Mexico, causing a rapid influx of oil to emerge from below the ocean floor up to the water's surface. This unnatural event disrupted the lives of many of the organisms in or around this area of the ocean, and still continues to do so. Because of its large scale, it is considered one of the largest marine oil spills in human history on Earth. But while almost all involved in this catastrophe suffered, there has been one creature who has instead thrived, and that is the bacteria Alcanivorax borkumensis. A. borkumensis was discovered in waters off of the island of Borkum near Germany in the North Sea in 1998, just roughly 20 years ago. While German scientists found this bacteria originally in a few very scattered patches, as research continued, they came to the conclusion that it had an affinity for oxygenated, salt-rich waters, and grew in larger numbers in those polluted with crude oil. The high rate of reproduction in these bacteria allow a multitude of them to form in environments plagued with high oil content, and enable them to come together to form a sort of biofilm or barrier around oil molecules to break them down more efficiently, lessening the overall concentration of oil near the surface of ocean waters. In order for this process of degradation to occur, the bacteria must be first exposed to a highly oil-polluted area. When in contact with an oil molecule, A. borkumensis releases an enzyme called hydroxylase that digests the hydrocarbons present within crude oil solutions. As these enzymes eat up the pollutants, they release two end products, water and carbon dioxide, that are relatively harmless compared to the toxicity of the oil. Looking forward, some potential drawbacks of this method of bioremediation are that it is a process that only occurs near the upper and surface layers of water, and wouldn't be able to eliminate the same pollution that could be happening further below. Another problem might occur if the ratio of carbon dioxide being released is higher than that of water, as too much carbon dioxide could make the ocean water too acidic for marine life to be comfortable. Case Study 2 centers around the effects of radioactive pollution. On April 26, 1986, a nuclear reactor core in Chernobyl, Ukraine exploded, releasing dangerous levels of radioactive energy into the surrounding area. In addition to this, the smoke from its fires also carried toxic particles from the site of the accident to other environments where they were easily able to be breathed in by the human body. Because of the inability to prevent this sort of spread of pollution, it has been predicted that the events that went down at Chernobyl will cause at least up to 4,000 cancer-related deaths in the coming years. Even today, not much is entirely known about the effects of radiation from Chernobyl, but it is assumed that its effects, like most forms of radiation, are deadly, due to the likelihood of increased mutations within the DNA of the human body. Despite all of the disaster that ensued from this terrible incident, there is one organism that has been discovered that may pave a path towards restoration. This is the organism Cryptococcus neoformans. Cryptococcus neoformans was first discovered back in 1894 by pathologist Otto Busse and surgeon Abraham Buschke, while observing tissues in the bone infection of a young woman. In large amounts, C. neoformans can lead to infection, but in most cases is easily treatable. In nature, it can be found almost everywhere, but mainly inhabits the soil. However, in 1991, scientists found it growing towards radiation along the walls of Chernobyl's abandoned power plant. Today they are learning skills to culture and run it through tests in labs, and found that its cells' dark pigments are the result of a buildup of melanin, a pigment known for its ability to absorb light and lessen the harmful effects of UV radiation. So far, research suggests that the fungi are using the melanin to absorb the radiation and convert it to energy, similar to a plant's process of photosynthesis. Further research on C. neoformans is in the process of being completed, and therefore its research paper has yet to be accessible to the public. Despite this, it can be confirmed that in 2016, strains of this fungi were sent to an international space station, which has an environment that contains between 40 to 80 times more radiation than present on Earth. Scientists hope that this change would push the fungi to produce molecules that are able to prevent more of the damage caused by radiation. In the future, they aim to use this knowledge gained from their experiments to synthesize improved forms of UV protection, like sunscreen, and even speed up the process of radioactive decay in nuclear wastelands like Chernobyl, ultimately leading to its restoration. However, like all microorganisms, C. neoformans in large quantities has the potential to cause infection, so researchers must be mindful in their studies to prevent infections in those who are more at risk for disease. Within this discussion, I've only focused on 2 cases where bioremediation can occur, but there are actually many more. Here's a list of different areas with other examples for any of those who are interested. Here are some closing thoughts related to the topics of bioremediation and sustainability. Should we take advantage of nature's gift of bioremediation, or will it just lead to further pollution in the future? In other words, will we become too dependent and lazy and allow pollution to continue if we know that there are natural forces that can break it down? How do we know that these types of microbes won't become just as harmful and deadly as the pollutants they break down? And do you think scientists could ever find a way to prevent this? Since an excess of pollution is extremely toxic to any environment, how should we go about lessening the toll on these microbes? With large numbers of these microorganisms, will there be an increase in the chances that they mutate into pathogens? And overall, what is your stance on the process of bioremediation? Do you think it's beneficial, detrimental, or somewhere in between?